Cricket, the gentleman's game. While around for more than a century, it hasn't picked up much traction in the United States. Here at the Yankee Cricketer, I'm trying to change that. By breaking down the game, explaining it piece by piece, this South African American hopes to ignite a desire among my compatriots to begin to follow the second most popular sport on the planet. So that one day, even though you may not fully understand why two players would want to play a game for 5 days, you may at least begin to appreciate it. So we will break down the game, begin to understand the rules and strategy, and analyze current headlines as well as decade-old controversies. All of that and more coming up. Welcome back to episode 4 of the Yankee Cricketer podcast. In this episode, we're going to look at field placements, field settings, strategy for where to place your fielders, what's going through the captain's mind, what's going through the bowler's mind as they put fielders in different positions for different batsmen in different scenarios and match states, right? Depending on are you defending a big score? Are you defending a low score? Are you playing a test match, a 20-over game, a 50-over game? All of these things affect where the fielders are going to go and how aggressively you're going to play. And we'll go through each and every one of the field positions, maybe not all of them, there's a lot, but we'll mention at least the basic ones so that if you ever hear someone speak about cricket and speak about certain words and you think they sound funny or silly, you may understand what they're talking about. And then an extension of that is also just batting shots, so the name of the shots, which I think we touched on last episode a little bit, but the name of the shots in cricket are based off the field settings. And so a lot of times, I guess. And so we'll go through some of those too so you can understand that. And that will all lead into next week where we will talk about how to read a scorecard, how to go online, go to Cricinfo or any sort of CricBuzz or any one of those sites and just click through a scorecard and read some of the commentary and actually understand what's going on. Because these field positions play a big role, and shot names as well play a big role in understanding what's going on, reading about cricket as it's written. Because if you don't understand the name of the field placements and the shots and all you read is so-and-so hits a cover drive through the gap between cover and extra cover going toward the boundary and picks up 2 runs. You're like, what's a cover drive? What's extra cover? What are all these things? Or so-and-so pulls the ball through square leg region and deep backward square leg roams around the boundary, picks it up, and they get 2. It's like, what is going on? What deep backward square leg pulls the ball? Like, what is happening? Leg glances, silly mid wicket. I mean, there's silly mid on, silly mid off. There's a lot of weird words when it comes to the names of shots and when it comes to the names of field positions. So we'll try and at least expose ourselves to some of these so that when you hear them, you may not remember exactly where that is on the field, but at least that's a field position. I can look that up later. Fine leg. I think I heard that. I think that's a field position. Leg glance. I think that's a kind of shot that goes kind of towards the leg side. And then what's the leg side? What's the offside? So we're going to look at all of that and more coming up. But first, let's just start with the basics. So what I just mentioned, leg side, offside. What does that mean? And I think that's the most basic premise of fielding. And hitting and understanding what people are talking about when they talk about cricket and trying to describe where the ball's going or where, describe what happened in a game. Leg side and offside are pretty basic, pretty standard language. So essentially the leg side, as we can see here, also referred to as the onside, is the side of the field that you would pull towards, I guess, if you were thinking, in baseball terms, it's, if you're going to pull the ball, if you're to kind of split the whatever shape a baseball field is, kind of like a pizza slice, I guess. But if you were to split that right up the middle, right, you would say, well, if you're a right-handed batter, the left side of the field is where you're pulling it towards, right, and then the other side's the opposite field. And so if you're talking about cricket, you're dividing the entire field in half, the entire oval, and that side you pull towards, that left side of the field. If you're a right-handed hitter and you're standing there looking, everything on the left side, that's your leg side. And everything on the opposite side of the field is called the offside. So if you think opposite, offside, and then legs, like the side of the field that your legs are on, essentially, that's the leg side. The leg side is also called the onside, just so that you have offside and onside, and so you may hear announcers use that as well. Leg side is, I think, a slightly newer term, but people use both interchangeably, which makes it more confusing, which is great. We love that. So you have the leg side, you have the offside, and if we look at the field settings, just these basic field settings here, you'll see that there are a few, but this is just the base. This is just like we're not even going to the boundary really with these. These are just kind of a lot of inside the circle field positions, and you can see some of these names are kind of weird. So if you look at this, we're looking at a right-handed batter, as you can see, because the leg side is on the right side, right? So the way I explained it before is, imagine you're the hitter and on your left is the leg side. But if you're looking at it just straight on or from the top, then the leg side will be on the right side and the offside will be on the left side. So again, not confusing at all, but but anyway, so you have the wicket keeper right behind the wickets there, and the bowler running up straight in at the other end of the pitch, right? The umpire's there. One thing we didn't really talk about before, but there are actually two umpires. So if you remember when the overs change, right, at the end of one over, another bowler will come on from the other end. And so the umpire doesn't just walk from one end of the pitch to the other. The umpire will then move out to square leg, which is a field position you see there on the leg side. And the square leg umpire will then move behind those wickets, kind of where the wicket keeper is, and that's where the next over will start, right? And the whole field will flip to the opposite side, right? Because the bowler will now be on the other end, the wicket keeper will run to the other end, and all of those field positions will change. What's also interesting is that the field positions change based on, which handedness the batsman is, right? It's not like baseball where left field is always left field. Here, as you can see, you have point and square leg, which are both kind of right across from each other. And then you have cover and mid-wicket as well, which are right across from each other. You have mid-off and mid-on. There's a lot of symmetry with some of these. You have long on, long off, a lot of symmetry in the field positions. Obviously, because it's a circle, you're putting players in similar positions just on opposite sides of the circle. But if this is for a right-handed batsman, if you were to have a left-handed batsman come in, right, let's just say the right-handed hitter batsman hits a single, and there's a left-handed batsman at the other end, and he now takes the strike, or he starts facing, suddenly that square leg is now called point, that mid-wicket is now called cover. They haven't moved. Mid-on is now mid-off, and mid-off is now mid-on. Long on is now long off, and long off is now long on, right? And everything flips. Fine leg becomes third man, and third man becomes fine leg. The slips and gully will probably walk across to the other side of the field because there's no point in having slips on the leg side or gully, really. But if they did stay on that side, the slip would then become a leg slip, and the gully would also have another name, maybe like a short fine leg or a leg gully. And so it's interesting because depending on the handedness of the batsman, it will change the names of the same guy, right? The same guy could potentially be playing square leg, and then they switch and now he's playing point, right? And so it's less about the names of the field positions, I guess, because I guess in baseball it's like, oh, if you play shortstop, you play shortstop, and you're always shortstop. Whereas in cricket, if you're a good fielder, you'll probably be somewhere here inside the ring, close to the bat. If you have quick reflexes and good hand-eye coordination, you'll probably play slip, because that's where those nicks come off the bat really quick, and you've got to adjust really fast and make a good catch. If you're really good at diving around and you can cover a lot of ground, you will probably play point or cover. And if you're not as good, you might play square leg or mid wicket. But again, those are important field positions as well. So, it's just interesting to see how captains use their best fielders. But it's not like, oh, you're always going to be at cover every time, because if that was the case, if everyone had a position and they played it exclusively, then every time you switched handedness of batsmen, right, if you had a left-hand, right-handed batting partnership going, every time they hit a single, it would take like 2 minutes for the entire field to change, right? Because then everyone is running to the opposite end of the field, and you just can't do that. So you often work with the symmetry, especially when you know you have a left-handed, right-handed combination at the crease or in the middle there batting. And so that you don't have to spend so much time moving your field around. You will have some players move and be like, okay, so you need to go across to the other side now when the left-handed guy's on strike versus when the right-handed guy is facing. But I know definitely at the junior level, we just kind of worked with a very symmetrical field, similar to this one, very basic. We always had a square leg mid-wicket. We would have a point, a cover, maybe sometimes an extra cover, mid-off, mid-on, maybe not a long-off, long-on, but definitely a fine leg. And so, we would have a kind of a pretty basic outline like this, so that even if there was a left-handed, right-handed combination, you wouldn't really move. You might move around a little bit, but you wouldn't move too much, and it wasn't too complicated. So the captain was always kind of thinking about that as well. But if we go to this more complicated field settings chart, if you will, you'll see that there are now way more positions than we just saw, right? And what are all these names? And a lot of these names just come from the names of the positions we just saw inside the ring there, right? So for instance, if we start here on the offside, so once again, this is a right-handed batsman. If we start here and we know about the slips, right next to the wicketkeeper, and then you see fly slip. So you see the name slip is still there, so you kind of know what part of the field they're in. And then the fly slip, okay, they're just behind the slips. Okay, I see that. Short third man. So remember, we know that third man is on the boundary. So short third man, of course, is going to be shorter or more in than the third man. And on the opposite side of the field, you have fine leg or deep fine leg, and then short fine leg, right? And so you kind of get that deep and short interaction between field positions. If you look at point, which was kind of right perpendicular from like 90 degrees from the batsman, then you have backward point, right? And so backward kind of means behind square, or because square is like right 90 degrees, and so backward point is a little bit behind him, or a little bit behind the batsman, I guess, from point. And the same is true, that symmetry of backward square leg, right? Remember, we said square leg and point are kind of symmetrical, and so backward square leg and backward point are also a little bit symmetrical as well. And then you have deep backward point and long leg, which I don't know if I've ever heard anyone refer to long leg. I often hear deep backward square leg, which again is confusing if you've never heard that before. Oh, he hits the ball, oh, so-and-so's fielding at deep backward square leg. It's like, what? But if you know where square leg is, and you know where backward is, and you know where deep is, it's like, oh, I know where that is. But all I really knew was what deep meant, what backward meant, and then I knew where square leg was. So you kind of, once you get the basic field positions, a lot of the other field positions build out from those, I guess. So you have square leg, backward square leg, deep backward square leg. Okay, I get that. Or deep square leg, deep point on the other side of the field. You have cover and deep cover, mid-wicket, deep mid-wicket. Then you have extra cover, which is kind of just what it sounds like. It's a cover, but it's just extra cover on the offside, right? We need more cover because this guy's just hitting the ball through this area. So an extra cover and then deep extra cover. Then mid off, long off, mid on, long on. Cow corner on the leg side there, probably one of my favorite field positions. You learn about that one pretty early on in cricket. Guys will often try and hit the ball deep on the leg side, and cow corner is a good spot to take catches on the boundary. And so I don't know why it's called cow corner, but it's a well-known field position. And then just as we get close to the bat here, you have gully, slips, leg slip, right? And so you kind of just, you have that symmetry there. And then you have silly point, silly mid off, silly mid on, and short leg, which all kind of mirror each other. And they're called silly because look at how close they're standing to the batsman. A lot of times you'll have a short leg, not often a silly point, or you might have a silly mid off and a silly mid on. I've never seen a silly point that often unless it's a very poor batsman, maybe one of the last batsmen to bat, and the bowling team really needs a wicket, and they'll bring on the spinner and bring on a silly point just so that if the batsman tries to block it and it pops up, they have someone right there to catch it. But if it's a good batsman who's going to be smashing the ball pretty hard, you're not going to put someone right there. But yeah, it's silly because they're standing super close. And so, yep, that's a brief overview of the field settings that you might hear of in cricket. And so the strategy is essentially, when it comes to field settings, very much dependent on the type of game you're playing. So in 20 over cricket and 50 over cricket, you'll see this ring, right? We pointed this out a little bit before, but there's that inner ring on the field, and that will limit where you can place fielders. Kind of in the last 20-ish years, they've started to do that so that teams couldn't put everyone on the boundary from over number one and be like, yep, you can't score any boundaries. You can get a bunch of twos, and that's it. So they would limit the number of players you could have outside that ring. And so it would be, 3 players outside the ring initially, and then, or 2, and then 3, and then 4, depending on how many overs you've played. So the first 4 overs, you're only allowed 2 players outside the ring, or 3. And then, once you've played a few more overs, then you can add 4, and then, and it continues on like that. Whereas in test match cricket, there's no limit. You can put as many players outside the ring as you want, because normally in test match cricket, the bowling team is the aggressor, and so they wouldn't want to put everyone out on the boundary because it's just free runs for the opposition. And so that plays into a lot of the strategy where the captain has to say, okay, I only have 2 or 3 players that I can put outside on the boundary or anywhere outside this ring, actually. Where am I going to put them? And the bowler has to be aware, okay, this batsman, they enjoy hitting the ball to the leg side, so I'm going to be putting the ball on the offside. And so let's put a guy at deep backward point, just in case they try and cut the ball. That's the name of a shot. A cut shot normally goes kind of square of the wicket, and or maybe we put a deep cover or deep extra cover just in case they drive the ball and it goes through to the boundary. We want to have some cover on that side, and so and so that kind of all plays into the strategy. Whereas in test match cricket, it will often be the more aggressive. You'll have 3 or 4 slips, whereas in one-day cricket, maybe you only have 1 or 2 slips, maybe just 1 slip next to the wicketkeeper there, because you can't afford to have so many players stuck behind the wickets, right? You need those players in active fielding positions. Whereas in test match cricket, you'll have 3 slips or 4 slips, especially because the batsmen are just blocking most of the time to start out the match. And so you want to have those guys there in case they just get a little edge, and you have 4 fielders there regardless of where it is. Does he edge it really fine, like just kind of get a small nick on it or a thick nick on it, you have the whole field covered there behind the wickets. And so that kind of will affect strategy, just which format you're playing, which batsmen are at the crease, where they're strong hitting the ball, where your bowler is comfortable placing it, and then just kind of then also the captain has to be aware of, which fielders are my best fielders, where do I want them? Or which fielders are fast. I want them out on the boundary so they can cover a lot of ground. Whereas which fielders have good reflexes, I kind of want them closer to the bat because they can react, and so you're constantly thinking through all these while also trying to think through bowling strategy. Which bowlers do I want to come up? Which bowler do I want to bowl the next over? Letting bowlers know ahead of time, hey, start warming up. You're probably going to be coming on in the next 3-4 overs. So the captain's got a lot of things running through his mind at all times, and he has to be aware of a lot of things. And if he lets something slip, it can cost the team a lot of runs, or maybe they miss out on getting a wicket that they could have had because the captain didn't set his field correctly. And so field settings are very important. I know in baseball it's a lot of the little subtle shifts that you don't often notice. It's, the fielders are coming in and the outfielders are in a little bit, and then you'll see them be able to make a play on a ball that probably would have just dropped in, otherwise. Or the fielders are a little bit back, or they're shifted a little bit to the left or to the right. And there's some of that in cricket, those small shifts, but a lot of times the field placings will change and it'll be a large shift, like an entire position. Someone will move straight from square leg to mid-off, right? And it's just an entire shift of the field because, the captain wants to try some new strategy. And so, the field placements are definitely a large part of the strategy when it comes to cricket. And even though players don't often make a living on just fielding, there aren't players that can really do that. There are players that are well known for their fielding. They're good batsmen too, but they're also well known for their fielding. And there's plenty of old adages in cricket, catches win matches, things like that point to the importance of fielding, right? If you take your catches, you're probably going to win a game. And so, working on fielding as a skill. And what's great about cricket is everyone has to field. So even if you're a batsman a bowler, you bowl your over and then you've got to go out into the field, right? And then you come back in and bowl another over and then you've got to go out in the field. And then you bowl your, in a 20 over game, you get a maximum of 4 overs. In a 50 over game, you get a maximum of 10. You kind of finish that allotment and then you're just a fielder for the other rest of the innings, right? The other 16 overs or the other 40 overs. You're just a fielder, and so you've got to be working on that skill as well. And the bowlers also have to bat, right? If you go out to bat and the other team gets 8-9 wickets, everybody on your team is going to have to bat. So you have to at least work on that a little bit. And so it's nice that you can't just get away with knowing one skill. You kind of have to know all of them. And so at least a little bit in order to be successful. And so, fielding is one of those ones that can sometimes fall through the cracks, but you can tell when a team hasn't been working on its fielding. A lot of missed runouts, a lot of missed catches, miscommunications in the field. It's pretty obvious, and those teams often don't do well. But we did talk a little bit about left-hand, right-hand combinations in batting. Those can be very brutal for the bowlers and the fielding team to deal with, not just because the captain has to change the field every time they get a single or a 3 or the over changes. It's also brutal because your whole strategy is changing, right? Because, the bowler was placing the ball in such and such an area on the offside, trying to tempt this batsman into to play a big shot on the offside, and then suddenly now it's a left-handed batsman. Well, what was the offside is now the leg side, and this batsman's very strong on the leg side. So now you have to kind of change your entire strategy and where you were putting the ball. And the captain now has to think about the field for an entirely, different, orientation of field. And so it can be very good for a batting team to have a left-handed, right-handed combination. But also, one thing to remember with field changes as well is, yes, they change with a left-handed, right-handed combination, but also at the end of the over. Something that I think people miss and forget if you watch cricket on TV, it always looks like they're playing from the same end, right? They're always playing from the same end of the pitch because the orientation of the camera is always the same, and you don't often get to see in between overs what happens. But growing up playing cricket, in between overs, you always knew where your fielding position was for the even overs and the odd overs, right? Essentially. So it's like, okay, we start off over number 1, I'm playing mid-wicket. And then it's like for over number 2, I'm actually still playing mid-wicket, which means that if I'm kind of playing mid-wicket all the time, it means that once the over is done, I need to run diagonally across the field to the mirror image point on the other side, because you're going to bowl from the other end. And so that bowling from one end and then bowling from the other end and then bowling back from the first end, and that alternating of ends sometimes gets lost watching it on TV. But that's just a good thing to remember, like, okay, that's why the changes in between overs take so long, because the entire field is changing. But also just to remember, okay, yeah, we do change ends. So maybe one end, the pitch looks really great for spin bowling. There's a lot of cracks and things on one end, and then on another end, maybe it's less like that. And so the pitch can kind of be changed on or not changed, but it'll be different on one end versus another end, which can also change strategy. And you'll also from one end maybe sometimes hear about the field, this the long on boundary is short from this end, just based on how they made the field, or from this end the leg side boundary is short, whereas from the other end the offside boundary is short. And so it does change the game, having those over changes and kind of having the batsman on both ends, and having the bowlers having to bowl from different ends, and that changes your field strategy again. And again, that also explains why you have the two umpires as well. So the one umpire will go and be a square leg umpire. The square leg umpire's job is to adjudge, was a ball above waist height? So like if somebody bowls the ball and it doesn't bounce and it passes the batsman above waist height, that's a no ball. We talked about that a little bit last week. And so he'll judge those. He'll judge if the ball bounces and is too high and the batsman can't reach it. That will be a wide, and he'll adjudge that. And then he'll adjudge stumpings and runouts. And so that's mostly what umpires are there for. Although in professional, runouts are exclusively done by video, because a lot of times they're too bang and you can't really see if the person's in or out. But at lower levels of cricket and at junior school cricket, the umpires are always the ones who adjudicate whether someone is run out or not, and so that's why you need umpires at both ends. And so then the square leg umpire will become the main umpire in the next over, and then that main umpire will walk out to square leg and become the new square leg umpire, and they'll just keep rotating as the overs rotate as well. Last thing to get into, I guess, a little bit, just naming some of the shots that you might hear if you were to listen to cricket on the radio or hear an announcer talking. So the important thing to realize is that a lot of times it'll come from the field position and the type of shot. So a drive is kind of when a batsman steps forward and just kind of plays through the ball and drives it fully, kind of open face of the bat. Normally you drive the ball straight or somewhat straight. And so, for instance, a cover drive is where you drive the ball through the cover region or the extra cover region, whereas a straight drive would be, through mid-on, mid-off, that region, right? Once you start getting square of the wicket towards point, backward point, gully region, that starts to be a cut shot, where you're kind of cutting at the ball, you're kind of back a little bit, and you'll see the bat being played kind of under their eyes a little bit, like it's or right next to them, and they're cutting it square 90 degrees of the wicket. And so cut shots, and then late cuts, if you wait really long and you kind of wait for the ball to almost be past you and cut it late, then it'll go even more towards third man, backward point, that area. And so you'll have late cuts where you may try and split that gap depending on where fielders are. And so those are the main offside shots. Leg side shots, you'll have on drive. So I called straight drive. Straight drive is the overall name. You have off drives and on drives depending on which side it's on, right? Or so an on drive obviously is going towards mid on, mid off, and an off drive is going towards mid off and long off. But they're both going straight. But then on the leg side, you'll have like a leg glance where you kind of just flick it off your legs towards fine leg. You'll have hook shots and pull shots where if they try and bounce it at you towards your body, you kind of wait on it and just hook it or pull it. And then you just have a bunch of aggressive shots too that have all been kind of not invented in the last 10 years, but definitely perfected in the last 10 years. You have ramp shots and, other sorts of switch hits, which people don't do as much anymore, but like people would literally, as the bowler's running up, if they were a right-handed batsman, they would kind of almost turn into a left-handed batsman to try and, fool the bowler, get a different angle on it. It would sometimes work, sometimes not. You also have, I guess with like spinners, so you have certain shots that you often see against spinners, like sweep shots, where you get down on one knee and you kind of just sweep the ball, and then you'll have a reverse sweep as well, where you kind of do it to the opposite side. So you kind of get down on one knee and kind of paddle the ball around the corner. But then, you have sorts of flicks and ramps and drives and glances and pulls and hooks. And so if you hear any of those sorts of words, you're probably hearing about a type of shot. So once again, just try and remember some of those words, and at least when you hear it, it's not totally foreign, and you're able to identify, that's a shot, that's a field position, that's that's going to this part of the field, that's going to that part of the field, and just trying to identify and understand the game a little bit better as you hear it being told to you, and also just as you're reading about it. At least it makes a little bit more sense and doesn't feel like a foreign language with jargon you've never heard before. So hopefully this wasn't too out there. Hopefully some of the pictures and videos help explain some of this, and hopefully you're able to just decipher some of this, and that this will be helpful for you in the future. But we will move on to looking at some news of the week now. Looking at cricket results from this week, not a lot going on once again, but we have IPL action still going on in India, the T20 League, and we also still have English county cricket, the first division, still playing 4-day games right now. So in England, if we look at some of those games going on, most of them are in day 2 right now. The one to really watch is the Hampshire-Lancashire game, because as you can see on the table here, both of them are neck and neck on points, just 1 point apart, and that match is pretty well balanced right now. Lancashire trail by 46 runs with only 2 wickets left in their first innings, and so if Hampshire can end that with a good lead of 30-40 runs, put on another 200-250, they'll be in a good spot to win that game. And then moving over to the IPL, if we look at some results from the last few days, see Rajasthan beating RCB, and RCB now has fallen out of the top 4 in the table, which is the playoff spot. You want to be in the top 4 to make the semifinals, and so they have fallen out of that top 4 spot. And Rajasthan, as you can see on the form table there, they've won their last 4, and so they're on a good stretch. Gujarat also won on a final ball 6 to beat Sunrisers in another battle of the top, which was an incredible game with Rashid Khan going wild in the last over, hitting 4 sixes to carry them over the line. And so those two divisions, the IPL and county cricket in England, are the 2 that are playing right now. Nothing else really going on in the international stage, but like we talked about last week, we'll have some more international action coming up in the next couple months. But that's all we got for today, so we'll see you next time.